And welcome back to part 5 of What If Neji Killed Hinata, the Naruto What If. Last time in this What If, we left off in a very unusual place, because it begs the question of how are we handling this? Sasuke had his fight with Itachi, but Obito still managed to capture or obtain Sasuke. Meanwhile, Nagato, Pain is being sent off to get the Kurama, get the nine-tailed fox from Naruto. But the reason this becomes very weird and a little, difficult to think about how it might go is that Sasuke has been with the Leaf for a while now. He's generally on good terms now with the Leaf, all that. I'm sure they've been keeping tabs on him. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but overall, he's proven himself relatively capable. Great. But what does that mean for when Obito actually talks to him? So let's actually get to that at this point. Well, Obito has disappeared. He says they have Sasuke, they've acquired Sasuke, all that. It's like, great, woohoo. He goes, Sasuke wakes up in that, wherever they were, cave, whatever. And, Obito shows himself, the Amaterasu in him actually activates. Then he starts talking to Sasuke about what happened with the Uchihas. And, what happened with them. And Itachi's real role in the way the village used him. And Sasuke's thinking about this, and he is having a lot of the same reaction that he's upset with the Leaf and all that. So what will you do, Sasuke? So what will you do now? He tells him everything. He's like, what will you do now? It's like, that's a good question. I'm going to have a long conversation about this. It's like, conversation? You don't wish revenge? I want revenge, but trust me, I already got my revenge on Itachi. It's like, then don't you want revenge against the village for what they did to your brother? And he just thinks on it a little bit. It's like, I don't know. I'll have to ask him when they get here. Obito's eyes just kind of like, what do you mean get here, Sasuke? They have no one outside of me and Zetsu know where this place is. He's like, oh, not before you brought me here. And he starts kind of like, he has a bit of a smirk. It's not like it's like, we played you, bitches, but it's like, hey, that's the way life is. You probably heard that I tried to abandon the village years ago and join Orochimaru. It's like, of course I'm aware of this. What does that mean about that? Well, that dweeb of a teammate of mine, closest friend I got, really, he managed to actually bring me back. Since then, the Leaf has been pretty keen on keeping an eye on me, even though I've pretty much proven at this point that I didn't intend to turn on them. And it turns out Naruto is right. I ultimately did gain the power to take out my brother. I'm never admitting that to his face, though. Not gonna admit that once. It's like, what? I still don't understand what you're talking about, Sasuke. And Sasuke just kind of points out, it's like, yeah, they put all kinds of things on me, including a tracking seal. If I were to ever leave the village, they're gonna know exactly how to hone in on me. At least certain Shinobi would. It's like, well, it's a very good thing that there's no certain Shinobi among the group you were with who would be able to track you. And we're too far away now for it to make a difference from the Leaf. True, but and then Sasuke's like, do you really think my sensei would know how to track me? And that's when Obito's eyes actually do widen a little bit. It's like, Kakashi, son of a... And all of a sudden, there's a big boom near the entrance. And Sasuke's like, oh, it took you guys long enough. He's too tired right now to do anything. Like, he's still worn out. Even with the Amaterasu activating involuntarily, remember, that's still, he did not want that, and that was still very taxing on him. So you have basically the entire search party that was there initially, Team 7, I believe, Team 8 minus Hinata, obviously. Rest in peace. I think you could even throw, a bit of Team Guy in there. So, maybe even Sai. In fact, yeah, Sai would have been on. So, yeah, Sai's there. But yeah, they're all there. It's like, ugh. It's like, I see. So you've made this very much more difficult than it needed to be. But I suppose it's now as best the time as ever to acquire the Nine Tails. I'll have to tell Pain not to attack the Leaf after all. The Leaf? I was like, that's right. And so Obito's now, but Obito also has to weigh his options too. He thinks it's the best time to acquire the Nine Tails. He's right there, but even he can only dodge so much damage for so long before he would eventually get hit by this many people. So he has to weigh his pros and cons. Like, think about what I said, Sasuke. Until we meet again, Leaf Mitten Kakashi of the Shouting God. Um, and so and you too, Naruto. And so he gets out of there. They get Sasuke. Sakura goes, Sasuke, are you okay? I'm fine, Sakura. And they're wondering what's going on. I'll tell you when we get to the Leaf. And so they get to the Leaf, and he kind of tells them what Obito told him, and he asks, "Is it true? Did you do this to Itachi, to my family?" So now Tsunade being on Kage is prevalent to this information, but she's not she wasn't there for it. Remember, this happened after she left the village, because I believe they said she left the village right, I think, before the attack of the Nine Tails for about 13 years. I want to say she was gone, so right around that time. And so she was not. And Sasuke's the Uchiha Massacre happened when Sasuke was around 4, 5-ish, 6-ish. Early mid single digit years. So there's no way she would have been privy to that. But as being the Hokage, she is privy to that. Whereas the two advisors on the other end and Danzo are very aware of their hand is like, yes, yeah, we did. Hence. And Itachi spared you because you were a brother. You were innocent. You had no knowledge of this coup. And so, and because he loved you, it broke his heart to do it, but he did it. He did it because he loved this village, and even if it was his own family, he was not about to let, violence or anything come upon his home. And Sasuke, is just thinking this over. It's like, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what you did, but I respect what he did. Even I hate him, and I hate him and respect him all the more for this. And so, I'm going home. I'm going home to rest. I'll help you out, Sasuke. It's like, and Sasuke's like, oh god. So, it's like, Tsunade's a good mission, everyone. And Naruto's sticking around just a little bit and just, I can't believe you guys let him do that. And Tsunade's just like, Naruto, being a ninja is not fun in games. That you're going to have to make choices that you may have to live with for the rest of your life, good or bad. And Naruto's just thinking, still, you could have found it. Still, they could have found another way. And so now he's just sitting there. It's like, maybe they could have, but they ran out of time. And Sasuke and Naruto goes off to kind of just contemplate life's problems, if you will. So that about a day later, that's when the word comes out that Jiraiya was killed by, the 6 paths of pain. Naruto goes. He goes to be by himself. And I'm not going to address it. I had a mild conversation with someone about, the whole how you deal with someone who's grieving or not. And I'm not going to get into it right now. Maybe a different one, but not now. I'd rather just not deal with it. It's just not worth it. So Naruto mourns. Eventually, Ruka shows up. Now Naruto's trained. Naruto's already got Sage Mode. He's already perfected his Rasen Shuriken. So what else could he be doing right now to do more training? Well, he could try to working on the Fox's chakra more. Now, this probably won't go the same way as it would when he's training with Killer Bee. This is due to the fact that he doesn't have that concept in his head of how to actually take the chakra, all that. But he's working on accessing more of it and more of it. He's training with the Toads so that, they have the seal there. So if he starts to go wild, they'll be able to suppress his chakra. And I'll say this. Naruto he can't use access any of the high tail forms where it's like the second form, where it's shelving his chakra for Kurama's. But he is, I think, able to, because we see Killer Bee access multi-tail forms beyond 3 tails. That is just the tail beast cloak, the standard one. So you can clearly do that. But I think Kurama, being the strongest and the angriest, given his nature, he made it difficult to do that for Naruto. That's why once he hit the 4th tail, his chakra took over. And so I think Naruto learns to access higher level tails of chakra, maybe like up to 6, maybe. Until he's maybe about in the same mindset as he was when he fought Orochimaru at the 3-tail state. So kind of everything goes down. He can basically access his 3-tail state more or less without a problem. Like he can go all the way to 3 tails and still have complete, lucidity. But once he hits 4, he starts getting a bit more aggressive. Once he hits 5, and then when he hits 6, he's still in control, but he's driven by emotion and rage. So I can see that happening. I also see him learning to blend Sage Mode and Fox Chakra together a lot more effectively this time around. As we saw, he briefly did it against Nagato, but he didn't do it for very long. He used it to basically repel Nagato's chakra out of him. So when the Invasion of Pain comes, a lot of that stuff happens. Danzo kills the Toad that keeps Naruto away for a little while. Naruto does show up eventually, and it is still the fight with Nagato and Pain and Naruto. Ooh, pardon me. Naruto basically saying, "Oh, I'm gonna wreck this man's whole day." Basically, just goes into his Sage Kurama mode, which gives him a big buff compared to even Sage mode, and just starts to go ham on these guys. So the Toads come out, deal with the summons. I think he actually takes out even an extra path of pain. I think he might actually tag the Naraka path in this fight with like a stray wind jutsu, like wind blade jutsu or something. Just two takes it, like bisects him. Splits him in half. And now Deva Path doesn't have the Preta Path to save him this time around. So when Naruto does throw the Rasenshuriken, he actually ends up taking out the Deva Path before he can use Shinra Tensei again. And that's a big change here, because now Naruto just remembers what Jiraiya said, the real one's not there, using the Chakra Rod for a moment, like Sage Mode wane out, and then whoop, back again, boom, finds Nagato. They have their conversation. I do think that conversation, though, does still go the same way. Granted, he doesn't meet his father, so he doesn't get that bolster of encouragement, but I still think it goes roughly the same. Now this begs the question, how does the Killer Bee thing go down? Because there is no Taka, there's no Hawk to try to capture him. There is still Kasame. There is still Obito. There is still Konan, who's obviously going to go off and do her own thing. That goes the same. Obito will get the Rinneganas. There's Zetsu as well, but yeah, and there's Orochimaru. I forgot I added Orochimaru to the team. So I think actually Orochimaru is the one they said as a test of loyalty to go into killing the Eight Tails. And initially, they're pretty even, but then he brings out lightning jutsu, the lariats, his 8-stored crazy saw, which is awesome. And he thinks he takes out Orochimaru, but Orochimaru just bursts in the liquid and then just does the. I love that technique too, like the water pistol, just poof, just pot shots, like poof from a distance, and he does get hit. He gets his piece like, "Oh, you think you got the 8 Tails, huh? 8 Tails? Well, guess what? I'm Mr. 8-0, and you got to go. Oh yeah!" And so he goes into his full Tail Beast form, and Orochimaru pulls out, the grass longsword and starts cutting tails. Tail Beast spawn, boom! It's big, it's all vulturous, and we see the Killer Bee. Killer Bee's there, and he takes Killer Bee, but as we know, that was a ruse, because he hit himself in one of the cut tentacles. So I think you actually do get the Kage summit. But here you have a very different thing going on here. Naruto is very much the hero here, and honestly could be made acting Hokage. Now, I think they wouldn't do that because of his age. Like, Minato was young, but he wasn't Naruto age 16 young when he got returned or made Hokage. And they suggest Kakashi, but ultimately I think it still goes to Danzo. And so Danzo goes off. But the thing about this is there's no real reason for Naruto or anyone to go, because of the whole, there's no Sasuke issue here. So everyone goes, there's a Kage summit, and I think really what happens here is that Danzo is the one who gets the leadership role. And I think this is due to and this is where a big deviation comes, because Sasuke has not gone rogue here. Danzo is free to scheme a lot more and get a lot more of his way. So because we know he was manipulating, oh god, what was that guy's name? Hikafune? Hold on. Hikafune. I think that's his. One second. Where Hikafune. There we go. Fune. think that was the head of the Land of Iron. Hikifune Naruto? Let's see here. Naruto. No, that's Hikifune is the name of a Bleach character. Who? I'm not gonna look. I had no real interest of like spending like a full minute looking it up. This case, remind me what the name of the guy who was the head of the samurai was. He successfully manipulates him. However, and Obito shows up, declares war, all that. But because Danzo's the leader, he's now in charge, so he might set things up differently. Now, I still think he does agree to put Naruto in confinement with the Eight Tails. He feels they're the precious resources and weapons. This allows Naruto to get his training done, finally access the full force of Kurama mode. The Kasame fight with Killer Bee has already happened, except now, Kage's got both his arms still. So that fight goes a lot cleaner, although Kasame's still hiding. Everything with Kasame on the Turtle Island goes the same. And so Orochimaru is berated for obviously not getting the Eight Tails, but he tries to go for them again, only for Naruto and Killer Bee to be like, yeah, no, and a fight between Killer Bee, Orochimaru, Naruto, and Kabuto goes down. And let's not forget, Orochimaru and Kabuto have the added advantage of using the Edo Tensei to make the army, so you get the entire Shinobi War arc in the way it is presented, definitely. Now, what happens, though, when Tsunade wakes up? Even though Danzo is Temper Hokage, Tsunade does wake up. And basically, as he's been made the leader, she basically confronts him, and now that she's awake, he's like, I'm still acting Hokage here. You were temporary Hokage, that's great. Step down, old man. And Danzo's like, I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, I've been made leader. By the way, the English voice dub for Danzo, I didn't like. I look at that character and I see a deeper, gruffer voice. More like, I'm afraid I'm sorry, princess, but I cannot... Or it'd have to be still gruffer, though. I'm afraid I can't do that, princess. You see. It's like something like that. I've been made a leader, and therefore the new acting Hokage. And Tsunade, it's like, that's not how that works. And she does this in front of the Arakage, and Arakage, you're like, she's right. You don't get to just take the role. You were temporary until she woke up. She woke up. You've still been appointed the leader, but you the leader of there, and we'll still listen to you as you have vast experience. Which, to be fair, he's a Warhawk, which means he does have experience here. This is something that Danzo would actually be very capable of doing. But he's not. But you've got to relinquish the title of Hokage. And Zan's like, it's like, very well, then, Tsunade, Lady Tsunade, of course. Because he's like, I'm still a leader. They still gotta do what I say. It's all good. And so, yes, Tsunade is still in charge like a battalion. Most of the fights still go the same, with the exception of the fact that Sasori and Dedera take longer to put down. And I don't think they realize about the unfinished business thing and all that, and like accepting peace and all that with Sasori, because Kankuro's not there. Now, granted, they all end up sealing him anyway, so it's all fine. But yeah, because Kankuro's not there, they do have to struggle a bit more against these guys. But ultimately, Sai, does the giant Onis and all that. I think Sai still has a ways to go, but he's been, thanks to hanging out with like his Team 8 and all that, learning friendship and all that goodness, he does ultimately come around to where he is in the series. So, this begs another question. What's Sasuke's role in this? Sasuke, I think, would be fighting on the front lines with Kakashi. Now, Kakashi wasn't there when Madara was brought out, so that would be a big change for him. But he does have his Mangekyo Sharingan. Unfortunately, he does not have his Eternal because he did hightail it out of there. But he does have the Mangekyo Sharingan. He does have a Susanoo, and he's been, I think, practicing with it, but he's been sparingly practicing with it. He's making sure he can use the technique, is what he's doing. So they've been fighting. They were fighting the 7 ninja, and Haku, obviously, and there's that moment of remembering each other, and then being taken down. Now, I think it would be Orochimaru who's being the chess master here. Kabuto is there, also as backup. Ultimately, B and Naruto encounter the Raikage, Tsunade, and then they encounter Nagato and Itachi. Itachi does use the crow that he didn't plant in Naruto, because I think he still did that. And get himself out of the Genjutsu. Orochimaru is shocked by this. It's like, Itachi really is on another level. And so they go and they go. Sasuke finally sees his brother again. Sasuke tells him about what happened. He knows about what happened, but I'm not going to. And I've been thinking long and hard about it. I'm not going to take my revenge on the Leaf. And Itachi's actually is a little surprised by this. Like he was expecting Sasuke to be still full of hate and all that, but he looks at Sasuke and is like, I've been living to hate you my entire life. It's time for me to move past that. And I might not be able to forgive them, but I'm not going to live in my life in hate and just vow revenge on everything. It's like you, and he just smiles at Sasuke. You really have grown, Sasuke. And so they go to confront Orochimaru, who we know did not turn into a true sage mode, dragon mode, anything like that. It's implied he has knowledge of it. We know that, but he never seemed to get a sage mode for some reason. Even though he's got that pink stuff around his eyes, that's always been there. So whatever that is. So they have a long, drawn-out fight with Orochimaru and Kabuto. I think Orochimaru might have amped Kabuto to that weird dragon snake form he had. I think that might be where you get that. But together, they do take these guys down and use Izanami on both of them. Before then, completely using Amaterasu and Sasuke uses Amaterasu and just burns them all to the ground. I think Sasuke is going to be a cold motherfucker in that one. Then you get Naruto on the front line, you get the Madara thing. All this pretty much goes pretty much the same. In fact, I'm trying to think, is there any way that a lot of this plays out differently? Sasuke probably does go to the battlefield to aid Sasuke. Sasuke aids Sasuke. Sasuke aids Naruto because Naruto is his friend, all that. So when fighting off Tail Beast, like, oh crap, Sasuke pulls out Susanoo. Susanoo or Susanoo. I go Susanoo. And the Tail Beasts actually do flinch at them because they recognize the Susanoo, thanks to Madara. And he pulls out and fires like Amaterasu arrows, and actually keeps them at bay. Then Kurama comes out, rebuffs Sasuke's chakra like he rebuffs everyone else's chakra, gives them a chakra cloak. They're good to go. The fight continues on. They use Scorch Release. He doesn't use Scorch. Actually, no, he does use Scorch Release. Not Scorch Release. It's not Blaze Release. Sorry, that's what happens when he can manipulate the Amaterasu. So, again, everything else is going the same, except Sasuke is tiring out more readily because he doesn't have an eternal Mangekyo. His eyes are also kind of, fading in and out a little bit. Granted, he hasn't used the Mangekyo very much, unlike before where he was spamming the damn thing. That's why his eyes were degrading so quick. It took Itachi years to get seriously bad eyesight and go near blind. Sasuke, it only took, a couple weeks to a month? We really didn't have a good time span of time, did we, between when he first activated it and when he got the transplant. Either way, the fight continues. The Obito thing gets the reveal. Hashirama I should say Hashirama showed up, because that's another thing. Orochimaru being dead doesn't summon Hashirama. So their fight against Madara and Obito is actually a lot tougher, because they don't have the act. Well, is it a lot tougher? The third was able to keep Zetsu at bay, and that makes sense because they did catch Tenzo, I'd imagine. They were able to keep him at bay. Or he was able to keep him at bay. Minato having, the Flying Thunder God, same with Tobirama, as we learned. That did help quite a bit, and Hashirama stalled Madara for a while. But ultimately, I don't think it would actually play a huge factor. A factor, yes, but not a huge one. I also don't think you get that, the armored Kurama, the Susanoo covering Kurama form. This is due to the fact that Sasuke doesn't have a perfect Susanoo. He doesn't have a eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. So they are going to struggle a lot more in this fight. But it's not to the point where I think they can't win. It's not that far. I do think they could manage the victory over Obito. Madara is a different story. I think Madara honestly kind of bitch smacks all of them, and then Zetsu comes, steals like the Kurama chakras a bit. Naruto and Sasuke would still be floored. Sasuke is the one who's actually going to be going to have a problem due to the fact that there's no Kabuto there to save him. And Sakura's medical abilities aren't anywhere near as good as they were in the canon. However, we do have Tsunade available. And unfortunately, because we don't have Orochimaru and Karin or anyone else there, all the Kages die. Like, all the Kages die. Which is actually really, which now that I'm really saying it means that this might not end well. Because I'll admit, I do know where it's kind of going, but I am piecing it together bit by bit as I'm going along. It didn't actually occur to me right there until I actually said it out loud. I did think about it, but I'm like, oh, all the Kages are dead. There's no Tsunade. There's none of these guys here. Oh, they're all dead. Fuck. So anyway, you still get Night Guy, takes on Madara. You get Sasuke and Naruto. You do get that. However, unlocking their abilities and beating Madara. Kaguya shows up. The eternal Tsukuyomi happens. Problem. As useless as much as I don't like Sakura, bash on Sakura, and say how her character took a major debt, was useless in the first part, and about halfway through the second part of the series, Shippuden, she went downhill. She still had the super strength of Tsunade and healing capabilities to deliver, boom, a punch like that was able to basically knock Kaguya straight down. She don't have that here. Now Kakashi might be able to lend a hand because he would still most likely get Obito's soul to give him the perfect Susanoo with the Kamui stuff, which made him pretty freaking hacks by Naruto terms. But Sasuke, here's the thing too, Sasuke does get the Rinnegan, but he doesn't have his isn't the same as it is in the original because he doesn't have an eternal Mangekyo. So, or Mangekyo, depending on your pronunciation. See, where this series ultimately ends is all depending on whether or not you think Naruto and Sasuke, a more weakened Sasuke, mind you, would be able to beat Kaguya without Sakura. If Kakashi's able to step in, I think they'll still get that. They'll get that win on. I think that's the case. And for the sake of a nice ending, let's just say that does happen. Because I think he could, because with Kamui he can teleport. So I actually think that's actually more feasible than how I'm kind of implying it could be. That said, however, it's still not easy sailing, and you might actually even see the death of something. Like Sakura might actually not make it out of that. But let's say, for the sake of a happy ending, let's say it is. So then everyone is released from the eternal Tsukuyomi. All's well that ends well. Sasuke actually stays in the village. Kakashi's made the next Hokage. Naruto then will obviously get the Hokage seat after that as the 7th. Now, in terms of the very beginning of Boruto, because I do not do Boruto at all, because I don't watch or read Boruto, so there's no point in me doing that. In terms of who ended up with who, I still think Sasuke ended up with Sakura. It made the most sense story-wise. And I like how someone puts, because no one else wanted to date the son of a bitch after what he did. I do find that humorous and possibly true. But who does, say, Naruto end up with? It's actually a fair question. Because honestly, I kind of implied it was probably going to be Ino. And honestly, I would probably just say Ino. It's the one I'm kind of set up with. Even though we had precedent for people who didn't see coming being together, Choji and his wife, who I am forgetting, Karui. Choji and her. Yeah, did anyone see that one coming? I don't think we did. Hell, we saw the Sai thing coming far more than we saw the Choji and Karui thing coming. We have no idea if Tenten got married. We know Rock Lee had a kid, so he at least had a girlfriend at one point. Probably got married. We just don't know who the wife is. Probably a civilian, if we're going to be honest. But yeah, I would. But at the same time, you can make an argument. Maybe Karin comes in. Yes, she's an Uzumaki, and yes, they'd be relatives, but so are a lot of the Hyuga and the Uchiha. So let's not say that's too gross, all right? Because that's kind of how those bloodline traits happen. I suppose you could make that argument that Karin eventually shows up. I would probably just lean towards the Ino one, if I'm going to be honest. But that is, in my opinion, how that series ultimately ends. Now, there is an alternate version of that series where they aren't able to seal Kaguya, and they lose. And then the Eternal Tsukiyomi is, there you go. And everyone's done. So there is an alternate ending to that. If you want to go with the darker side of that ending, you can. Because it all depends on how heavily you argue for Kakashi being able to intervene in the same capacity as Sakura was able to intervene there. Either way, let me know what you thought. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review at some point. Probably the shortest multi-part Naruto What If I've ever done. We will be starting up a new Naruto What If next Wednesday. Or at least a new What If that's not a Dragon Ball What If. And to end, we'll probably be starting a new Dragon Ball or something What If come next Saturday, too. Because I'll be wrapping up What If Goku didn't get married later on. So, thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.